Hey, what is up, Polar Fam? This is Shib Bear, joined by the one, the only Julian on our community Polar AMA here in our Discord on this beautiful October 16th, 2022, 8 p.m. UTC, or it's the morning time over in the Australia, New Zealand region. Shout out to you guys there. But this is the moment that we've been waiting for quite some time. This is our white paper focused AMA for version 4.0. This is where I'm going to go over as much of the white paper as I can with each and every one of you, and of course, answer any and all questions that might be on your mind. So please, as I'm going to go through the beginning of this, please allow me to get through the information, and then I'll start answering questions as we go from there. So if you guys do have any questions, just simply hang tight. I'll let you know when I'll start taking all of them there. And in the meantime, you can post any questions that you might have in the AMA Questions Weekly channel, or you can raise your hand and I'll bring you up to speak here live once I am done kind of going over the highlights of everything that's been going on here with the white paper and all the other stuff there. So before we get into the white paper in and of itself, I know someone's going to ask the old question, when migration? We don't quite know yet. I'm not too sure yet. So I'm just going to say, hey, I'm not going to put a date on that. It is progressing pretty well. Some of the different market events of the last week suggested it might be a good idea just to hang tight a little bit, take our time, make sure everything is properly developed, and then we'll get that out as soon as possible. So don't worry too much on that just yet. I know it's very, very important, but we will get that information out to you the moment that we are definite on it, right? So the last thing I want to do is give you guys a date or even a range of dates and it not to be that case. So allow us to kind of get through some of these things here and we'll keep you guys informed every step of the way. I promise you that. So beyond that, white paper has finally come out, right? So we've been talking about this for quite some time. It's a 21-page document. If you guys had not seen it yet, please head over to the announcement channel. I just posted the most recent copy about 28 minutes ago. So that is up there for you to read over. I do highly, highly suggest reading that entire white paper over if you are interested in moving on with Polar in the future. A few things that we did change around. I think one that'll still have to be updated in the white paper is the name of the token, right? So instead of SEAT, S-C-E-A-T, regardless of what it may come off as, that is the word SEAT. I think that technically means a treasure coin, but I don't really know there. But to avoid any confusion, if people want to say that C is a key sort of sound, we have officially changed it to PolarFi. So the new name token will be PolarFi. Shout out to Stacks for that suggestion there. I was thinking about just keeping it as Polar, but PolarFi is a great way to differentiate what we were to what we're going to be and also keep that same polar theme that we've had since last January, right? So that allows us to really kind of continue on with our brand as well. So quite simply though, what is the vision of Polar? And there's going to be a few different things in this. I know many people are very, very focused on the note side, and that is totally understandable, but I'm going to be going over the white paper basically line by line, in a sense, page by page, right? So on the core aspect of Polar in the future is going to be gamification. We are going to have these NFTs that are able to be staked. But the gamification, it's kind of like a hybrid GameFi ecosystem, and it allows us to really kind of grow into several different niches onto BSC and ultimately other chains. So there are going to be several different games, including mini games and a larger game that'll be introduced into the ecosystem as time comes on. Polaris is going to be the largest of that game. It's going to take some time to develop, so we're not too sure when that'll be completed just yet. But in the meantime, we do have a Polar Bear Battle Royale game that's actually going to have a tournament here in the next couple of weeks. We're also going to have another mini game that's kind of like a Frogger style game, and then we're going to have what's called Polar RPG, which is kind of like an interactive GameFi protocol. So that'll be using a lot of the NFTs and some of the different things there. So that'll just be kind of interesting to dive into. So that is kind of where we're trending towards here, right? Is the real vision, the real business model into the future and away from the very, very high APR, very unsustainable, very hard to maintain structure that we once were. Now our goal is to create legitimate business opportunities, legitimate business sources to create a real revenue for Polar moving forward that isn't quite as reliant upon direct new investors at any new point. Now, that being said, it's a service, right? So there are people that have to use a service for it to work, but that is not the same as saying you're going to get 1% per day, but only in of good value if somebody else is coming into the system as well, right? So a service industry versus what these node industries have been are very, very, very different fundamentally. So we're going to be offering different gamification aspects. We're going to be offering a slew of education components here That'll be a subscription based here with the games as well. So there'll be different courses that'll be available to the community via a variety of topics, literally from coding all the way down to like mental health support and everything in between. Whatever you could think of there, we can start kind of building those as well, including maybe even some different trade bot educational aspects and things like that there. Additionally, for revenue, we do have some trade bot strategies that'll be making the protocol money over time without, again, having new investors coming in to allow us to continue to develop and grow the various aspects of the protocol constantly. And that is very, very important because in DeFi, we've seen many of projects, especially since we've come alive in January, have come and gone because they ran out of money or they sold their community false dreams and they were not very open with them when things were starting to go south. On the contrary, Polar identified that there was a very substantial issue that definitely was painted red when May came around, right? And the markets crashed when there's very little money coming into DeFi. So we said, hey, how can we make this thing still that same kind of feel, a DeFi atmosphere, use NFTs, use staking, use all that good stuff there, but also create an environment for us to have a real business opportunity and a real business model that can be done indefinitely and that could be grown and progressed over a period of time, prolonged period of time, of course. So that's where we're trending to here now. We're not going to try to sell you guys 2% daily APR because that's just not practical. You literally cannot do it. So that is sort of what we're going on there. We do have some different developments with the Polaris side, including a new VC that is helping get some of the funds orchestrated for the Polaris development. And in return, they get none of the revenue, none of the profits. We don't pay them anything. But they do have access to the code for which they'll likely probably either make or sell the code of a different version of their game. They don't have access to any of our art or those kind of things there, but just the code side of it as well. So that's kind of what the point of a VC is, right? Is they're going to give us something, they're going to get something in return, but instead of them getting some sort of like a royalty or some other stake ownership, they're just going to have access to the code that they're allowing us to develop via funds a little bit easier than maybe we did before. That's pretty important in this space, as well as it allows us to kind of not, set ourselves too thin with the monetary components while we start developing these future things as well, because things aren't cheap in the space. We've all kind of figured that out over time. So, but of course, what is everyone thinking about here? They're always thinking about the nodes, right? Because that's what we've been since last January. It's a very, very integral part of what the protocol has always been. The node aspect of this is very, 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 very different than it was once before, right? And I've been kind of screaming that from the rooftop, honestly, since February that it needed to change, but definitely since May when the markets took a major hit. So this does come as a shock effect to some people, and we did see some people express some, different opinions, some more professional than others, I guess. So if you do have opinions on it, we're always open to the discussions, of course, but please be respectful to members of the team and to each other, because quite frankly, I can handle a differing opinion, but if you're going to be disrespectful to people, I'm going to shut that down pretty quick. So try to keep that in mind. If you do want to have a productive discussion, we can do that, but we do want you to obviously be civil, because that's just part of being a human and being an adult in this world. So that being said, the NFTs, which are the nodes, they're NFTs currently, they're going to move over, and they're called Genesis NFTs, and it's a staking mechanic to earn a yield. So there's going to be a variety of different variables to these NFTs. I highly, highly advise reading over the white paper and making sure you have a good understanding of what these nodes will be doing as we migrate over. Again, that migrate date is still TBD, but we will let you guys know as soon as we do. So as of right now, the Olympus NFT is going to have a 65% annual APR. So it's 65% return of that native token value per year. That's very, very different than whatever it has been lately, 3.5, whatever it might be percent per day. And that's at 100% life. There is mechanics here where the life decreases every 28 days. So it'll be decreased over time, 100%, 75%, 50%, 25%, and then ultimately 0% over, let's see, 4 times 28 days. Now, the rest of the tiers of NFTs, Everest all the way down to Fuji, all have a 60% annual APR. However, their value is different in the cost of the NFT itself, the cost of the repair kit, of course, and then their life depreciation rate and how much is utilized when somebody claims. So for each 28 days that occurs, the life kind of reduces by that 25% like we just mentioned there. And then you have to start using repair kits if you do want to get it back up to 100%. So in the case of like an Everest, for example, right now at the Everest cost, this is also important for me to stress, let me get this out too, is that there will be a hard supply cap on the NFTs at that time of migration. So whatever migrates over plus 2 weeks, which we will give them time, that 2 weeks time to migrate their nodes. Once that 2 weeks after we start the migration is over, we cut the migration process, and that is the total hard cap supply of these NFTs indefinitely, right? So the only way then to buy or sell your NFTs will be via the Polar Marketplace. So these values that I'm about to bring out are in reference to our Polar Marketplace, for which you can buy or sell the NFTs peer-to-peer. So if somebody wants to buy one, you have one listed for sale, you'll be able to sell it and vice versa. So for the Everest at 1,050 of the new token, which in the white paper it still says Siege, but I think it's going to be PolarFi. We kind of talked about that this morning. So that'll cost 1,050 of that PolarFi token. And then from there, we will say, hey, every 28 days, it does decline by 25% life. And then each cost for the repair kit for the Everest is 13.25 of that PolarFi token. So that over time, obviously, then you have to utilize those potions in order for it to grow a little bit further. Actually, I did just misspeak there. I do apologize there. I kind of got confused on the numbers myself, so please do bear with me as I'm going through this. It decreases by 10% per month, not 25%, so I do apologize there. But correction on my end, an Everest will decrease by 10% per month, and that'll be the cost. You need one of those tokens, or excuse me, one of those repair kits per month to replace that 10% of that lifespan. Now, every time you claim that Everest, you also have a 30%, which is the life percentage usage for penalty for claiming. So if you were to claim once per month, for example, you would have a 40% reduction in life from there. But if you were to claim once every 2 months, you'd have 10%. If you were to replenish or not, doesn't really matter. 10% and then 30%. So really, generally speaking, the longer you wait to claim, but also adding to those small 10% increases in potions, the better that return potential is, because if you do claim more often, then obviously that claiming tax will add up pretty quickly. After just a few tries, it'll then bring your node down to 0%, then you'll have to then get 10 of those repair kits in order for it to be brought back up to 100%. It's also very important to stress that 0% life does not mean the node is deleted. It just means it is no longer producing that native token. So if it's at 0%, you can leave it at 0% for a while. You can then reboost it to 25%, 50%, 75%, or 100% at any point that you prefer, so that you then still have your NFT to work with. It doesn't get deleted or blow up or anything crazy like that there. So that's going to be kind of the general tokenomics of the nodes. The Olympus, the Everest, Ushuaia, the Kilimanjaro, the Mount Blanc, and the Fuji all have a little bit different tokenomics. So please make sure you go look at pages 9 and 10 of the white paper, and that'll kind of break down step by step for what each node does every time that it comes up to 1 month at its rate of depletion, anytime you claim, how much they cost to repair, and the APR on each tier of NFT. That is all laid out there on those 2 pages. I know that's going to come up quite a bit between now and when we migrate, but I'll most likely just reference people to there so that you guys can see it all for yourself. Because if you have 2 Everest, an Ushuaia, 20 Fujis, and an Olympus, and you ask me to break it down for you, I'm going to say, hey, check out that chart there on page 10. If you're very much confused about how to kind of work it out, then I'll definitely help you out there. But I want to be able to guide you guys to have an actual understanding of how these things work too. Not that I don't mind, obviously, helping you guys out along the way, but we want you to be able to understand it yourself for your own situation, of course. Additionally, these Genesis NFTs, all these tiers of NFTs will also have a governance token aspect to them, right? So there's going to be a lot of different proposals brought up in reference to a DAO and different things for voting on proposals, and there will be some even votes, for a variety of different things, potentially before we go live, but I think most likely after we go live with that version 4.0. So that's going to be a pretty integral part of the protocol, as well as we do want to have the community to have a good say in what's going to be happening there. Now, to be totally transparent, there is a veto process from the team, so it's not a 100% DAO run by the community, only because that can lead to some very, very significant issues that we've identified in the past. If you guys have experienced a DAO, you have seen that yourselves, or maybe just a couple of whales can really bring a protocol off the rails and benefit themselves and put everybody else at risk. And that's what we don't want to have happen there, right? So we're not just going to veto something just because we don't necessarily like it, but we do need to make sure that the protocol isn't taken over by a couple of whales that might have some malintent, because that has happened even with big ones like Wonderland Time and things like that back in the day, right? So we don't want those things to be not Wonderland Time, Olympus, OHM. So to try to avoid those issues, we do have like a hybrid DAO system, which would be kind of interesting to work out, but I do like having that vote for the community. I think it's a very important part. We used to do it quite a bit back in like the January, February, March timelines, and I think that was beneficial for everybody because it did give you guys a say. Now, to also kind of further that hybrid DAO mechanic, to be totally transparent, if you guys might remember this way back then, I was even getting into like legit arguments with other members of the core team back in February because I really did not want very high APRs. I understood that high APRs was not a good thing for the long term, and I was shut down. I got one proposed vote out anyway, and it still wasn't voted for by the community. So this allows some of those things to then be mitigated, right? So if it's very clear, we can tell you what we think, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a vote process for a lot of different elements of the protocol, which would be nice there to kind of work out. So those are kind of be the fundamentals of the NFTs themselves. You have that different staking APR. You have them as a part of the Polar RPG mechanic there, which would be kind of interesting for like the gamification of the protocol itself. And then, of course, you will be having the DAO aspect for the voting system here, which will be quite important, of course, as we start to move forward. I guess also relevant to mention, if you guys are just tuning into the AMA, we are moving to BSC, to the Binance Smart Chain, away from AVAX onto BSC. The most basic reason for that is the Binance Smart Chain has a good combination of very high volume of transactions and also very low gas fees for transaction fees. In comparison to Ethereum, which has incredibly high volume but also high transaction fees, or some of the other blockchains like Solana, Matic, Avalanche, things like that are out there that maybe we'll still have some involvement with in the future, but those tend to have, yes, low transaction fees, but very, very low volume and very low exposure to greater audiences. Another good thing, I've been primarily working on the BSC space since I've been in crypto, so I do have quite a few different outlets here of connections, of projects and AMA groups and things like that there. I generally have a pretty good grasp on the places to look for, strategic partners, and also the places to avoid for marketing things and stuff like that as well. So I thought I'd like to see that as at least a benefit that I may offer the protocol. Now, obviously, whether we do those things or not is not necessarily up to me, but I do have a good finger in this space here on BSC and a good understanding of some of the different elements here, which I do prefer to be able to know a lot about what we're getting into, of course, compared to not knowing. I know that's pretty obvious. Let me take a little breather. Okay, and then the next part here is the PolarFi token. Unfortunately for the white paper, it's actually labeled PolarFi token. And for some reason, we didn't think about naming the new token as PolarFi until Stacks came in. I don't know if you're in the AMA earlier, Stacks, or shout out to Stacks for recommending that name. But we literally have it in the white paper, the PolarFi token. Seat. We're going to change that name, though, to PolarFi, right? So this PolarFi token will be our native token on the BSC side. That'll launch with a new LP separate from the current tokens here on AVAX. So this liquidity pool here on Avalanche will remain untouched by us. The tokens on Avalanche, the Polar tokens, will not, I repeat, they will not migrate over to BSC. So there will be no airdrops, no migration, nothing like that of the old tokens to the new chain. The reason for that is we do not want a massive collapse of the new token price due to substantial sales pressure as we move chains. That being said, to remain fair and what I believe is ethical, we will leave this LP untouched. We are not pulling the LP. As long as you guys claim your Polar prior to the migration, you can sell it on Avalanche, on Trader Joe, for whatever you prefer. I know it's not much, but at least you guys have access to the LP until it can no longer handle a transaction. At some point, it likely will not be able to because there'll be no support of this token any further on AVAX. So keep that in mind that the new token, this PolarFi token, will be primarily used for a variety of different mechanics, including the different games here, especially the the mini games. So the Polar RPG, the Polar Bear Battle Royale, and Hare games, which is that Frogger style game, will be all utilizing this PolarFi token. Now at this time, Polaris is expected to use a different token, mostly due to basically like pre-sale kind of, what's the word I'm trying to look for? Pre-sale, something of gaining more. You guys know what I'm talking about. So for the pre-sale side of it, so we want money raising aspects of it. There we go. So in order to generate some early raising of different funds, having a new token for Polaris is pretty important to complete that end as well. It also keeps that system very, very strong and relatively independent of the rest of the ecosystem, but also Polaris, the majority of the revenue feeds directly into the entirety of the Polar ecosystem. That's how it benefits. So if we give it the best chance to succeed on its own, it is directly benefiting the Polar ecosystem in and of it entirely and constantly. So that's kind of what we're working with there. The different utilities of this PolarFi token is the obviously the on-chain of the platform benefits. On here it says staking tokens to get you premium services. So ideally we would like to have some staking component to the PolarFi token. Once we get more information on that, I'll love to get that information out as well. I think staking of the token is a very good thing. Also different game rewards, including airdrops, giveaways, bounties, quizzes, staking, like I mentioned, and some other game side of gamification aspects of the token itself. There will be a system of on-chain payments within the Polar RPG of that native token. There will be a buyback system built in for that token as well. Now, it's not going to be like an LMS where it's a defined price range, but there will be a strategic buyback system put into place. And then, of course, purchasing of the different NFT add-ons like the repair kits and stuff like that are all required to utilize that mainstream token. The next part of this is the PolarFi subscription. I kind of went into that a little bit before, but this is another kind of new and interesting aspect that was developed and thought about a little bit later. But I think it's going to be something kind of interesting to look at here as just part of the ecosystem in and of itself. So we're going to offer a subscription service. It's $19 per month, charging a stable coin. This subscription is not required to use the NFTs or the staking. This is totally independent of those. However, the subscription is required for the games like Polaris, Hare games, and the Polar Bear Battle Royale will all be using that subscription model as their kind of like play to earn sort of system. It'll also get you free access into different tournaments and exclusive offers. It'll give you access to some of the scholarship things that we'll be working to do here. And we're talking, I believe the figure was two $6,000 scholarships that we're looking to give out over time. I believe it's $12,000 total for the first year. I could be mistaken on that, so don't quote me there. But there will be a scholarship aspect for those members as well. And then there will also be different educational courses that are brought out to give access to the community for different, educational things like crypto investing, security, mental health, editing, coding, front end work, whatever the case might be. I can even do different things for economics because I do have a higher education in some of that field as well, to really allow a different system here to be accessed by our communities if they choose to, of course, right? So that subscription covers everything, including those specialty courses, access to the scholarship. Obviously, not everybody gets that scholarship, but it will be access to potentially earning that scholarship. And then the gamification variables of the protocol. It'll also give you access to different group chats and stuff like that there. And of course, and this will be kind of separate from all that as well, is we have talked about trying to get a blog set up and put out there. And that'll cover everything from Polar internal news, BSC news for the blockchain, crypto news in general, economic news, totality, right? So I like to go into some of the larger economic variables, especially with like global economics and U.S. economics that tend to have a very direct impact on the crypto space. But it also allows us to put out some different news for SEO purposes, search engine optimization, because the more blogs that you have put out there that point back to your website, to your DApp, and all those things there, the better SEO capabilities that you do have. So that will be another pretty important aspect of what we're working on as well. So those would be kind of the different elements of this new version 4.0. I know it's a ton. I know we're working a lot on all those. I can go into detail of each of these different games as well, but that is all on the white paper and for everyone here to kind of read over and really get a better understanding of. And I've just been kind of talking nonstop for almost 30 minutes now. So just to give myself a little bit of a breather, I might go back to kind of go into different things in detail, but I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you guys might have on your mind. That's what we're looking forward to here, is to help you guys out and answer those questions for you. So if you do have any questions, please simply type away in the AMA Questions Weekly channel or request to speak live here, and we will talk to you guys live and answer any and all questions that you might have on any of these topics. I've been talking for a long time, so hopefully we have a couple questions there to go over. And Julian, you can go through those.
All right. Hi. Yeah, actually, we have quite a few questions. The first question is from Thorbob on node conversion. How will partial nodes be handled? Will it be rounded up?
Yeah, so there's going to be different things here. So there will be different elements that can be then combined and rounded up, right? So it's going to be primarily rounded up. That's going to be the aspect there. But there will be some for those that are created a little bit later on, and that'll then allow us to we'll release some more information out there that will go into the exact details of the different rounded down aspects of the nodes created after that of the August timeline. And that's pretty important as well, of course. But we do have all of them listed out there in the announcement that I made as well. And it will be rounded up at this point, right? So you won't get we'll round it up in any case here.
All right. The second question is from Mark Weaver. As a calculation example, let's say of my current 33 Everests, I will end up being able to migrate 10 Everests over to the new chain. After filling them up to 100% life initially, I plan on upgrading the life every 28 days, claim the rewards every 28 days as well. What kind of rewards will that equate to? Thanks in advance.
Okay, give me 1 second here. Sorry about that.
It's a long question.
Yeah. So I'm sorry here, just kind of working through the different elements here. Give me 1 second. Sorry, guys.
Okay, so I think the question is, there will be 10 Everests that this person is going to migrate, and then from those 10 Everests, he's planning to claim every 28 days and upgrade the life every 28 days. The question is, what kind of rewards will he be looking at?
Okay, so kind of what I mentioned a little bit ago, I don't want to get into a situation where I'm breaking down thousands of people's exact situations there. So I definitely recommend you look at the pages 10 and 11 of the white paper, and that'll kind of give you a different breakdown. But let's just kind of go over the math here while we're on it. I'll just do this one, but I'm not going to be answering, a bunch of people on the same exact question. Unless you really looked at it and you still don't quite understand, then we can even add some clarity to the white paper, of course, right? So right now, if you are looking at, for example, maybe someone does not know how to do that APR, that annual percentage return, right? So if it's 60% APR, that means that you get 60% of that base value over 1 year. So if this costs 1,050 of the native tokens, that means you get 630 of those tokens per year. So let's divide those by, I'll even do it all the way down to the day, and then I'll times that by 28. So per 28 days, that would be 48.33 of the native token per day if that node is at 100%. Now, at that 1 month mark, or excuse me, what did I just say there? 48.33 tokens per month at that 100% mark, right? So that's 48.33 of the native token per month per Everest. Now that's at that 100% mark, right? So if that at that 28th day you claim, that's going to reduce your lifespan by then 40%, right? Because 10% at the actually it'll be technically at the 30-day mark as I'm looking at this here. So we changed that as well. I didn't see that till just now, but let's just go with the 28 days because I've already done this example. Actually, I'll go back. Okay, so one Everest creating 51.78 of the native token per month per 30 days. So at that 30-day mark, you go to claim. It's going to reduce your node life by 40%, right? So that reduces it by 40% because 10% for that 1 month mark and then 30% for when you claim. And then for each potion that you now have to make, it costs you 13.25, 1, 2, 3, 4. That is like kind of like a break even at 1 month, right? So the kind of play here as you start getting into these different systems is to say, hey, the longer that you hold within the staking platform without claiming, the more beneficial it is to then claim in the future. So if you were to do that over 2 months, for example, that'll give you a decent return. If you do it where you're only doing 10% of the life potions per month after 1 year, that is how you get obviously the most return of that APR amount. So it kind of all depends on how you want to play it, right? Because every time you claim, it reduces your life by 30%, and every 30 days, it reduces your life by 10%. So the longer you go without claiming is the most important part there. So what I say there, like 58 tokens per month at 100% per Everest.
All right. There's no one requesting to speak, which is why I just read the next question from the AMA Questions Weekly channel. From Hey Siri, the API will be 60% for most of the nodes. Will it be paid out in stablecoins or in Polar? Will Polar focus on casual games, or does the team ever have their sights on triple A's such as Star, Atlas, and Illuvium? I hope I pronounced it right. What happens to special nodes? Can you give further clarifications? What's different for them now?
Yeah, so I'll kind of go by that piece by piece here. I'll start with the special nodes because I put a pin on this here as well in the main chat. So this was from Enor, but the special nodes will disappear because it is difficult to maintain them. They will be replaced by an equivalent node, for example, 2 Everest, and we will send an airdrop of an NFT, which will act as a certificate to prove that the user had that special node prior to the migration. We will use this certificate for benefits in the future. So special nodes will not be a thing once we migrate, but we are going to give you some equal value to them and then give you another NFT that'll serve as a mechanic to say, hey, you did have a special node at that time so that you do get that benefit in the future as well. It's kind of how those are going to be worked out there. So to answer the first question, the APY is 60% for most nodes. Will it be paid out in stablecoin or Polar? It'll be paid out in the native token, which is PolarFi in this case. So that'll be how those payouts are occurred within the native token. While Polar focus on casual games, does a team ever have their sights on AAAs? So I don't know. I honestly don't know a lot about Star Atlas or Illuvium. I've never heard of them, but I'm not an avid gamer myself, so I honestly don't really know, and I can't really give you a good answer on that one. But I do know Polaris is going to be a more in-depth game, and it's a game that can grow. I'm not sure what Star Atlas and Illuvium are, so unfortunately I'm not too sure.
All right. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't know that much about this topic either. I feel like we could use Bretzer in this kind of situation because he's the expert. Next question from Babushka. What are the plans to get the PA higher in the future? We know no one can predict the future, but I mean the roadmap for it to get it even higher at higher than $1.
Yeah, so Babushka, I kind of went over there on the white paper. There are all those different use cases and the different utilities for that PolarFi token. But as we know, literally, the two big dogs in the space today, Ethereum and Bitcoin, they cannot maintain positive price action, right? So we're not going to kid ourselves and just say, hey, it's going to be a magic system that's only going to go up, because it simply is not the case. But we are doing is giving it the best ability to rise over time via the different things that we are putting into place here, right? So we've talked about buybacks, we've talked about different game rewards, we talked about how to use the token itself for different aspects and elements of the protocol, and all those other different burn mechanics and NFT add-ons and everything that'll feed back into that native token in and of itself. But really, there's nothing I can say here that's going to guarantee anything in the future, just simply because I can't, right? I'm totally understanding of what the challenge is, but there's no easy solution, right? That's kind of what I've been trying to tell everyone in the community the last couple of days here since I put out the white paper. Is a lot of people might be asking for things that just simply aren't practical in this space here and today. Now, if we have a system that works fluently and they all work and feed into each other, then it creates a demand for the token, and that's how token price can go up. But in and of itself, if the demand is low, or if the just quite frankly, the usability is low in general, especially if DeFi goes through even a deeper winter than it currently is, then it very likely might have a downtrend for a little while, right? That's totally possible. But the more that we have built up, the more that we have ready to go and put into the ecosystem in and of itself, including once we get Polaris put out there, that puts more credibility into our project, puts more credibility into our token and into every aspect of the ecosystem that we will have built, so that once we finally get out of this kind of stormy waters here, that it really allows that new investor to have a great user experience and create that additional back-end demand further down the road. And that's kind of the goal here, is to reduce emissions. We have to reduce emissions, because if hundreds and hundreds of thousands of Polar tokens are being emitted per day, the price has nothing to do but to go down. It's the only thing for it to do, right? So we cannot keep doing that. So we reduce emissions, we increase the utility aspect, and we increase the entirety of the ecosystem's functionality in order to give it that best chance for success in the future. Does that guarantee success? Of course not, but it does give it the best chance of success, especially compared to what we've been dealing with since May, which I would argue has not been great, right? It's not been a great result for anybody in DeFi in general since May. That's pretty apparent. So that's kind of what we're building on there. It's going to be an uphill battle, and we're totally aware of that. We're willing to take that battle on and continue to fight with it. And that's kind of the, I guess, long-winded answer to that there, where we have a lot going on, of course.
All right, we have someone requesting to speak. Bernie, I'll invite you.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Hi guys, what's up?
Not too much here. How you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. I have a question concerning the live portions. Will the payment of the live portion reset the 28-day timer?
No, so it's all
okay.
so yeah, once the nodes move over, they'll all have that same marker, right? Compared to whenever they migrated. Because there are no new nodes being produced, there's only going to be a 2-week difference between the earliest node alive and the last node alive, right? So at any point here, once that, I think it's 30 days, they changed it to. I just kind of saw that in the white paper last second. But that being said, it just reduces your life by 10%. So once you replenish that 10%, it just puts it back up to 100% instead of 90%. And that's just kind of how that works there. So it's kind of simplistic, I guess, in that sense.
Yeah, but I think you misunderstood my question. Example given, we start at the 1st of December, yeah, just as an example. So the timer would be until the 30th. If we pay the live portion on the 20th, example given, would this also reset the 30-day timer for the next 10%?
I don't think so, because you would not be able to add any more life to it. So you would have to wait for it to go down to 90%, and then it would be eligible to receive life, if I'm understanding you correctly.
Okay, so there's also no way to pay it in advance for the next
Not that I'm aware of. Maybe there's something in the contract that I'm just not quite aware of there. I'll try to get some clarification on that. But as I understand it now, it'll only be eligible to be replenished up to 100%. So you'd probably get an error if you try to put it above 100%.
Okay, good. Yeah, can you look into that? Thanks.
Yeah, hey,
Thank
great
you, guys.
question.
That's it.
Thanks, man.
All right, we have another one question to speak.
Yep, Keith. What's going on, Keith? Keith, what's going on, friend?
Good morning.
How are you?
Excellent, thank you. No, great. Sorry, I was just trying to accept the call. I was just actually just coming up to ask. You've run through an example. I don't know, 6 minutes ago. Are you able to put some additional examples out just so that we can see how this model is going to work across the different tiers? So the example you gave was the Everest, but are we able to get examples across the board just so that we are able to work out what the ROI will be, sort of, the amount of money people are going to be making, that kind of thing. I like the direction of the protocol, but I mean, for myself, I speak for myself here, it sort of comes down to the, with the example you gave, is it going to be $3 or $4 a month that I'm going to be making type thing?
Yeah, so I can definitely do that there, and I can even do it with different time lengths, right? So I could show people that maybe claiming once every 2 months is much better than 1 month or three, whatever the case might be there. I can start working through those things and just try to get a couple different things out. It's easier for me to do that stuff by hand, but I don't know if everyone wants to see my beautiful handwriting. So I'll try to get that in a clean document for everyone to go over there in this tech world that we live in. So yeah, I could work on that, man. It's a good statement there.
No, that's awesome. And I mean, once you do write it by hand, once we understand sort of the calculations, I'm sure that there'll be some proficient users of Excel here who would be able to just chuck a spreadsheet in the chat for everyone and just sort of punch in some numbers and see how it works for them. So that'll be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, hey, no problem, man. Great question there. Yeah, I can definitely do that. That's something I should do on my end anyway, just to give everyone, like you said, it gives everyone a good, clear visual example, which is always a good thing.
Cool. Thanks, Shib.
Hey, appreciate you coming up here. And happy morning to you over in that region of the world. It's still only 2:44 p.m. in my part. Sad.
All right, I think we can return to the AMA Questions Weekly channel. Another question from Thorbob. If it's not stated in the white paper, how will nodes participate in revenue share, as has been stated from Polaris, etc.? Or did I miss something on that?
So Enor did just post something there in the general chat here a little bit ago. It's not going to be a revenue share model early on for sure. So the direction of the white paper is how it'll be pushed forward. So that is not going to be something that'll be coming up here, at least in the near future, because it does take some time to get a worthwhile revenue share system, of course. So that'll obviously happen at that point. So there won't be a revenue share model right away.
All right. Next question from DeFi. What is the initial price of PolarFi?
So I don't know officially just yet, but I know that the target potential price was at 10 cents. That is not formal. That is not finalized. Please do not take that out of context. But that's what I've kind of been expecting it to debut as. But we will see there. That information will be announced as soon as I have that finalized as well.
All right. Next question from DeFi. What is the projected revenue from PolarFi in 3, 6, or 12 months?
Let me see here. What is honestly, DeFi, I don't know. I'm not here I can't predict the future, man. So I honestly don't know because there's so many unknown variables. What if, of all these 97,261 nodes that we have, what if 100% of them migrate over? Obviously, it won't still be that number because a lot will be downgraded. What if 50%? What if 25%? What if 10%? What if 11%? There is infinite numbers of variables that could definitely come up in the next several months. So I can't sit here and say, hey, I have a good prediction in mind. That's why we set the migration cutoff to 2 weeks, though, because then we can really have a good understanding of how many NFTs that we have and that we're working with. And it's a very hard cut element of the emissions rate at that point.
All right, next question from Madeira Alex. Can the community vote to have the nodes as a revenue shared model that shares profits made from bots, venture investments, games, and any other investments in the future? The repair kit money used to increase the life of the nodes can be contributed to the investment pool to increase revenues over time. This way, the nodes do not rely on PA of the native token or add inflationary pressure to the token. Is it solely revenue shared from profits without any exact percentage payout?
Yeah, again, there. So luckily, Alex, Enor actually did answer you directly in that chat. I know you kind of put that in there at the same time. It is a great question, but let's see here. Just kind of going back to what he said. So Enor or actually he said this after he responded to J.R. Barrows, but it was around the same time that you asked for it as well. So in his response to that was, this is the final plan. We set up the migration and the introduction of a new token to stall. He used stall, but I think it's just a difference of English terminology there, but basically to add time for the community as we then begin to establish revenue for the protocol. Establishing revenue takes time. Polaris will be a good source of revenue, but there is still work to be done before it is released. Since we lost some money in the trading bots in December, he decided to shut them down and is testing another strategy that we control entirely. This one is safer and provides about 10% per month. This strategy is still being studied, but it looks very promising. And then we're going to add in some different elements of revenue, like from the education subscriptions and stuff like that as well. So the NFTs will not be a revenue share model early on. So they will, ideally, maybe we can start looking at that in the future, but it's going to take some time to get that number up there anytime soon, if that makes sense.
Yes. The next question would be from Globo. If we don't claim, do we still have to pay repair kits?
So if you do not claim monthly, then you only get that reduction of 10% in life per month. So you will not have that 30% reduction for claiming. Now, to keep it at 100%, you would still have to get the repair kits.
All right, question from Tinfoil Head Bridgade. I hope I pronounced it right. Can we not just make the decay happen on first of the month instead of every 28 days? 28 days just left shifts the day each month, which makes it impossible to just schedule our calendars.
Yeah, so there was some updates to the white paper that I posted today, and even as I was reading through it, now it says every 30 days instead of 28 days. So I'll kind of look into that a little bit more. We do have a little bit of time to clean that up. Now, why would we do it every 30 days instead of once every month? Is you can automate it on the contract side for a day's period of time, but obviously with unequal days in every month, 30 days past September, April, June, and November, all the rest have 31 except for February, which has 28 and 29 a leap year, right? So that's a whole lot of words to say that it's not super clean. But let me see if I can figure out a different system there, because even at 30 days, it's not a clean number. So at 365 days divided by 12 would be every 30.4167 days, which then some days would be later than others. It's still kind of a mess. The other way, we would just probably have to manually do it, which is still okay-ish, I guess, as well. But there could be some different things to look into there. So we'll see if we can clean that up a little bit. I think 30 days is kind of clean, but it is going to look a little bit weird at some point because 1 month will be at the end of the month, 1 month will be at the beginning of a month. So we'll see if we can fix that as well. But even just in the white paper, it says 30 days and 28 days on the same exact page. So I'll get some clarification on that and see if we can fix some of that up as well. All right, that works. Take a quick snapshot while I'm at it.
All right. Next question from Hannibal OC. Won't paying out a native token create constant sell pressure? If you're rewarded in stable coins, we'll need to buy the token for the kids, etc. Constant buy pressure.
Yes, there's a couple of different ways to look at that there, right? So here's the thing though, is if you do it in stables, where do the stables come from? Right? So how these other projects have done it, and I'll kind of go into this system as well, has honestly been their downfall. So what they do is say, hey, we're going to pay in stables. It's going to be perfect. Except what they do to get those stables is they sell the native token and they start giving out stables. Well, eventually that little ship takes on too much water and it sinks. So that's a problem in and of itself. The only other way is if it was not Ponzi economic based and it was simply revenue share, which we've just talked about before, and that's not going to be practical early on. So instead of having it either like a straight kind of Ponzi system or have it as a revenue share model that we cannot quite do just yet, by paying it out in the native token, which we already have the supply put out for at the beginning, we are not diluting the system too much, and it allows for a kind of clean ecosystem to work within itself because you're also using that native token to purchase the repair kits and other elements of the games and stuff like that as well.
All right, the next question would be from Babushka. How many nodes are the team expecting to migrate in total?
That I don't know, man. Honestly, I couldn't tell you exactly how many just yet because who knows? Like, you've even gone back and forth to say, hey, you're cool with it or you're not cool with it. Okay, I'll just migrate them over. It's very, very hard to get a finger on the pulse of what anybody's going to do, especially when they have 2 weeks to do it, right? So if they look at the gas prices and it's too expensive for them and they're not going to, maybe it's cheaper than they expected and they will. So I don't know how many that we are going to have migrate over, but I am very, very interested to see what that number is at the end.
All right, question from Tuta80. What will entice or bring new investors into the protocol? It's all pretty confusing. Is the reward worth all the effort to a new investor?
So obviously kind of what I went into early on there is the different elements of the gamification and how the ecosystem in and of itself works, right? So I've even had people say, why would someone do all this work for a 60% APR? That is, and they even compared it to the stock market. That is ridiculous, right? So the S&P in the last 20 years has averaged 10% returns. So 60% is obviously more than 10%. So if you do want to say, hey, the further away you get from high APR depreciating protocols, it's actually more encouraging for someone who's been in the space for a little bit of time and they've seen the highs and the lows of different types of protocols. That really says, okay, well, if I can actually see an appreciation in token price because inflation isn't too bad and there is a demand, then yeah, an NFT is kind of cool. Staking is kind of cool. Heck, I even have NFTs that do nothing. They're literally just photos. They don't do anything, right? So an NFT that at least has some return is kind of interesting. And then also tie that into the gaming aspect and the education aspect. I think it has a chance to kind of relate to a much broader audience than we have since we've been live in January.
All right, next question from Mike Santos. Hey, so I just ran the numbers with the new white paper. Looks like an Everest will be generating 52.5 PolarFi a month, losing 10% life per month plus 30% cost to claim. That's 4 potions a month to keep the NFT at 100% health at 13.25 per potion. Means we would have to pay 53 PolarFi per month in order to generate 52.5 PolarFi. That's negative profit. Am I doing the math right on that?
Yeah, so that's a great question there. And there's a couple different ways to look at that. I'll kind of check in with the team and see what the design of that is. I didn't create the numbers or anything like that. And, personally, I feel like there should be a positive if you were to claim once per month, but maybe it's designed where it's, the ideal target audience is once per 3 months, for example, or whatever the case might be. So I'll get some clarification on that from the actual, the math behind that, I guess, because I do understand what you're saying there. But that being said, if you don't claim once per month, it is very likely more beneficial, right? And that's kind of why I have to work out the numbers and give some examples for everybody, because I think, I totally understand that question there, and I think I can get some better clarity on what the thought process is for that as well, because I kind of agree with you. I think once per month is a reasonable ask for people, so I'll kind of look into that and see if we can get some better clarification.
All right. Next question from Kathleen. Will the migrate from Polar tokens to from Polar tokens to PolarFi tokens be 1-to-1? Assuming I have 1,000 Polar tokens at the AVAX currently, after migration, will this be 1,000 PolarFi at the BSC network?
Yeah, so I did just answer that a little bit ago. There is no migration or airdrop of the current tokens to the new tokens. We will leave this liquidity pool untouched on AVAX, so you can still sell your tokens, but there will be no airdrop and no migration of the tokens themselves. That is primarily to prevent a massive exodus on the new token and just depleting liquidity very, very quickly and putting us at a net zero as we do the migration, right? So there's going to be no way for us to migrate those tokens over, but you could still sell them on Trader Joe.
All right. I'm just going to read through the questions because I think there was a conversation there. No, I think that was all the questions. Please tag me if I forgot something.
It looks like Tinfoil Hat said, did the white paper change too? Everest repair kits for $1 in stables. Oh, yes, it did. So I did put that new announcement in there, Tinfoil Hat. If you could read that latest announcement, there were some changes to that white paper as well, including that where they're now done in the PolarFi token. So that'll be how it works from there. Since we're on the same, I mean, we're here on the AMA. I personally liked the idea of having it done in stables and then have the contract buy, because then you eliminate any sell pressure from within the contract itself. But others gave other good examples, so I'm okay with it. I think that's an okay thing to look at.
All right. Question from Peter Steady. Sorry, I'll just join with the time difference, but for someone that's invested a heavy amount, is there any chance of any returns on this? From what I'm hearing, not much hope.
Sorry, answering somebody in general. I don't know if there was a question in there. Okay. Yeah, not too much of a question. So I do, again, PS Daddy, I do understand. I do understand the sentiment, and that's, if you guys, I mean, I've been so transparent with you guys for months and months and months that we literally cannot have anything even relatively similar to what we've had, literally since February, but definitely since May. I've been talking about this. So here's the thing, like we literally cannot make everybody happy here. And I actually talked about Babushka quite a bit in the general chats today about the same thing. But it's just simply not possible, right? So even with what we have in the treasury right now, split it between the entirety of the, of all the notes. We'll just lower it all the way down to Everest, right? So 724,000 divided by the 62,263 Everest that we currently have is $11.63 per Everest that we have total, not including any of the other ones that we have out there. It's literally not possible for us to even put all 724,000 into the LP and still get a good return, even if we were to keep the APRs super high. All we'd be doing is leading it to a cliff to push it off, right? So we cannot do that. We cannot lead it down the same path that got us into this mess. So by doing this, a real business model, still having the NFTs out there, it does give us the best chance of success as a project in general. But it doesn't necessarily say, hey, if you invested X amount of dollars, that you are guaranteed to get that amount back. So that's just something I simply cannot promise, and I will not promise to people because I don't think that's fair for me to say because I can't predict the future, right? So there's a lot of different elements, but where we've trended would be much, much worse than where we are heading. I'm pretty confident on that, at least.
All right, question from Funkel. How is the new LP being funded?
The LP will be funded with the treasury, I'd assume there. It's going to be a new LP. We're not going to pull this LP. So we have the funds in the treasury. We could pull out some money there and fund a new LP pretty easily.
All right. Okay, we have a few people typing.
Yeah, there are definitely a few people here. So, gosh, I hate when people jump into the main chat and just be ridiculous the moment we start an AMA. It's rough. We have an AMA. Come up here and talk. I don't know. Whatever. To each his own. But
all right. I'm sorry. I just the unread button popped up, but I can't open the AMA Questions Weekly channel for some reason.
oh, well, that's weird.
It's just loading.
So I'll read them here. So let's see here. All right. There's just a couple of statements so far.
Okay. Oh yeah, I know it's working. Okay.
Yeah, but I'll answer this one with Alex. I mean, yes, community sentiment is low, but again, we I don't know how else to say this. How can we prioritize the nodes that is going to make everybody happy without running this protocol into a pit of lava, literally, right? So right now, people want high returns. You're not going to get them. You're not going to get them in DeFi right now and it be real. It's just not the way that these things work, especially when there's billions and billions and hundreds of billions of dollars exiting crypto every single day. It's just not viable. So the only way to get this ship right is to create an environment that puts a real business model as a priority. If we prioritize something that is unrealistic and unsustainable and false promises, then we just destroy not only sentiment, but trust. And if you destroy trust, that's it. There's no coming back from that, right? So the best we can do is say, hey, we understand what you're saying here. We're trying to create this environment to best succeed across the board, but we're not where we were in April. We're not where we were in May, June, July, August, September, or even October. We are here where we are now in November, and it's something that we've really kind of had to structure and buckle down on. And even back when things were falling apart a little bit in DeFi in April and May, I had a ton of conversations with Enor every day where he was stressed, not because the protocol was struggling, but because the community was struggling. So that's really what I want to stress here is no one's out here to be malicious. We're not benefiting by lowering APR or anything like that, because all we do is give you guys an LP. So if we give you guys $200,000 more of a liquidity pool and we give you nice high APRs again, then everyone's nice, joyous, and happy until the LP runs dry. Then what? Then we're literally right back to where we are here today, but with $200,000 less dollars to build a business with. So we cannot keep doing that. We literally cannot. And if we were doing that, honestly, I wouldn't be with Polar anymore. I'd move on because I would not support that sort of vision. I think that's a poor way to manage a business in DeFi right now. Unfortunately, Enor has not done that because I do love Polar and I love working with you guys here. So there's no clean way to do this. There's literally no way for us to make everybody happy. We just got to keep pushing and keep trying to grow and develop Yes, Keith, you're more than welcome to ask another question.
Awesome, thank you. Just a question about the repair kits. So they're a price at the moment. Let's call it $13.50. I can't remember what the price was for an Everest. Are these dynamic? Will they change with the token price should it increase? So at the moment, the example given before was around, like sort of a negative value, right? So we claim once a month. We pay 4 potions. That's 53 to claim 52.5. So the profit's not much. But if the token price were to increase to 20 cents, 30 cents, 40 cents, then there's going to be profit there, right? Because the value of it is worth more. So will the repair kit price remain as it is, or is that dynamic and will change with the token price?
So that's actually a question that I did have about how it was set up in general. As far as I'm aware, so how it was originally was it should be fixed to a dollar amount for the repair kits. I actually prefer that method, and I'll kind of bring that up again because I think that got diluted a little bit, because that's the way that it becomes more profitable with token appreciation. So if it is, $1 worth of the native token, regardless of what that native token is worth, then we can adjust it if the token price goes down manually. But if the token price goes up, then actually your repair kits cost less comparatively to what you're earning for staking the NFT. I think that's a better system in general. Now I can only push a little bit on that and see what I can kind of knock out of the branches there, but that's how I prefer it, because or else it really wouldn't make sense, right? If the token price goes up and your cost to repair it goes up, that's sort of backwards illogical thinking as well. So I'll try to get some clarification on that. I think that's a great thing that you just brought up there. That was on my mind anyway, and I kind of forgot about when we had this new update push on the white paper. And did that answer your question?
That did. That's excellent. And glad I could rejig something. I just think that'll be quite important moving forward to really understand the mechanics behind it.
Yeah, I'll kind of push those things up and make sure we can get some better understanding on all that.
Awesome.
All right, we have another one requesting to speak. Kelly H. Oh, actually, the invite is already sent.
Yeah, Cali H2O. Whenever you accept, you will be up on the stage. Cali H2O is gone. Okay, that's okay there. No worries, Callie. We'll keep this moving, keep it going. Here we are 1 hour and 9 minutes in, which is pretty fantastic here. Guys, if you still have questions, simply request to speak live or post away in the AMA Questions Weekly channel. Callie, you still have that active invite, so if you do accept it, you can come up here and ask your question as well. But we'll keep moving on here as well. Let's see.
There is another question in the AMA Questions Weekly channel from Lee Johns. Could we potentially look at the idea of only needing to using repair kits when we claim? Keep the 30% tax when claiming, just not the 28 days tax.
Okay. I see what you're saying there. Where it wouldn't degrade automatically, but only when you claim. I can bring that up as well. I mean, that's a good proposition. So I'll bring that up there and see kind of what the team thinks about it. I'm trying to write notes while we're doing these AMAs, but I also want to keep my brain on topic so I don't go blank here. So I'll kind of pass that up there, and we'll have a discussion about that as well. And that's a good proposition, though. We'll see what we can figure out there.
All right, Kelly H2O, you accepted.
Hello?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for taking my question. Are we allowed to bank and stack up our potions and repair kits until we need them?
Yeah, so they will be their own kind of individual NFTs. So you can hang on to them. They're not going to expire. So if you did have them, you can just keep them, and you can hang on to them for however long you wish.
Love it. Hey, you guys are awesome. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Hey, appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming up here.
We have Another one requesting to speak, Globo. I'll invite you up here.
What's going on, Globo?
Hi everyone. Hi Shib. Well, when you pushed us to come and speak, so I just want to do that. First of all, like thank you for the entire team for pushing forward, and just not like closing the project. Appreciate that. My question was actually like Legion. I wanted to ask like why not? We understand that we are in a bear market and not all the projects are working well. I was going to say why not push the investment a bit forward and say okay, we're gonna hold all payments and then work on the investment, and when the projects start giving revenues, this is when we resume everything. But Legion idea is really well as well.
Yeah, so that's actually been brought up a few times there, and Enor did kind of show at least some consideration on it. I was a little indifferent about things like that, but it kind of makes sense to me. I just worry a little bit about people losing faith and losing trust if they're not getting a return right away. And I know that might be kind of illogical thinking. I'm not too sure, but just with how much craziness there has been in the space, the last thing you want is to have the perception that rewards turn off, to give the protocol time to actually generate a system that is more beneficial. But then people start saying, well, then when do rewards turn on? And if you're like, well, we have to try to hit these certain mile markers, it can create some environment for FUD, and it gives them a little bit of ammo. And there are a lot of people out there sitting on the sidelines that literally are just looking for that extra round to put in their magazine to shoot at us because they kind of want us to fail. So I've been a little indifferent about it, but I actually do like it from an economic and a project standpoint. It tends to make the most sense. So we can definitely have a discussion on that and see where it goes. I think as long as we're incredibly transparent, it could probably be a pretty safe and good thing to look into.
Yeah, I mean, if I take what you said as an example, that by the end of the month, by the end of the 30 days, I will balance out. I won't make any profit, but I still have to pay the repair for my nodes. It's just I don't want to say it's a waste of my time. It's just more time invested on something that will not give me a revenue as an investor. The reason why I came in the project as an investor as well. I'm looking for revenue. But this new thing is gonna force me actually to either make two choices, like you said, to not to claim and inject more funds from my own pocket to keep the repairs going on, and then later on, take out my profit or get my return on investment. So this is why I'm saying, I mean, it's just like you're going around in circle until you reach the same point. That's why I'm saying, why not turn off the rewards now? And the project would say, we're here. Any questions that you have, we're here. It's just like back to normal investment. You invest some in any project, and then you wait on that project to fulfill the I don't know, like what you're looking for. But thank you as well. Like, I'm not going to take more of your time and everyone else, so I just want to add this. Thank you.
No, man, hey, great input and great questions. That's why I'm up here. So I definitely appreciate you coming up, and I am going to add that to our team group chat as well, and we can have a good conversation about it. But I mean, it makes sense to me, so we'll look into it and see what we can kind of work out over time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for coming up here.
Okay. I don't think it was already asked from Keith earlier. In addition to the above question, if it's not accepted, another view could be making the monthly decay 5%. This way, the protocol still moves forward, but the profits are a little more than it is with the 10%. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think I read that real.
No, you're good. You're good. I understand what you're saying there. It's reducing the monthly decay so that it's a little bit more beneficial. So that kind of falls along into the same line as somebody else asking if they could not have the decay, but only the claim event sort of decay. So I'm going to bring both of those up and see if we can maybe work out a better situation for that. But I very much understand that topic there. That definitely makes sense to me. So I'll look into that there and see what we can do.
All right. I think everything was covered. There's no one requesting to speak. Or is there?
Let's see.
There is. From Martin. I'll invite you.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Hey, what's going on, Martin?
Good, good. How you going, Shib? How you going, Jules? And been just listening to you guys this morning, where I'm at anyway. Yeah, great to hear that the project's going forward. Great to see the white papers out. Quick question. I heard you briefly there as I was getting ready at home, getting to go to work, where you mentioned something around the special nodes. So obviously your diamonds and your emeralds and so forth, that they convert. Can you just give me a bit more clarity on that? Because I only just grabbed a bit of that.
Yeah, so I wanted to get some more clarification from Enor on exactly how they're going to go for each different node. I'm sure it'll be by different tier of node and also timeline that they were created. So once I have that formally put out, I'll drop in an announcement as well so that everyone can see it broken down, just like I did with all the other tiers of nodes. Because honestly, I don't really know yet. Exactly what I put out there in that pin message was a verbatim from Enor, and that's all I really know just yet. But once I get some more info, I'll definitely put that out there so everybody can have a good understanding of it.
Okay, no, that's great. And okay, no, great AMA. Yeah, catch you soon. Have a good one.
Hey, thanks for coming up here, man, and definitely appreciate the question. All right, let's make sure that we've covered everything. I feel like we have an hour and 18 minutes. Pretty good, pretty good. Lots of good questions here. Lots of good information, and lots for me to look into as well. So this has been pretty productive, and quite frankly, that's how I want this to be, right? If you guys have been here for a while, I'm more than happy with constructive criticism, and it's not just me saying that by words. You guys have seen that in my personality. People being respectful, having an articulate discussion like adults. I love that. I actually very much so appreciate it. I think that's what this world needs a little bit more of. So overall, there's, of course, this whole migration thing isn't perfect for everybody by any means. And there's a lot that we could work on to make this version 4.0 even more fluid and, increase some different elements of it, which is definitely going to be necessary. A few of the questions that I'm going to have brought up to the team came from this AMA. I have 4 of them already typed out that I'm going to have a little bit of discussion about, actually 5 of them technically, so that we can get some better understanding of how some different elements of it work, and then we can present that information for you guys as well. So a lot of that's going to be coming up on the near future here, is just different elements of the different little tweaks of the white paper and of the information we get out to you guys. So I do apologize for not having all information here at my fingertips just this second, but we definitely got a lot out there in the white paper, went through it a bit page by page, really got some good explanation from the community and also us on here. So again, I just want to say, hey, thank you, Julian, for helping me out here in this AMA. Thank you to everybody who joined into this AMA and all the different questions that you guys have. We're always happy to answer. Literally, since I put this out on Monday, we've been in the chats nonstop trying to answer as many questions as possible. Only a couple people were, and it's not. I'm not against criticalness. You could be critical, that's okay. But some people, only a couple people were very, very immature, very childish. But we've already resolved those. So please ask the hard questions. We're okay with that. If you don't understand why something is the way it is, if you have a better idea of how things might be, we can at least have that discussion. Maybe it'll change, maybe it won't change, but that's okay. That's called being, an adult working through a discussion. We're gonna actually listen to you and try to get a good understanding of what your point is as well, and we'll try to get you a good understanding of what our purpose was, and then maybe we'll change it, and maybe we'll push forward with it how it is, right? But that discussion is very, very important for the community as we start moving forward. But until then, I just again want to sincerely thank you guys all here for joining in. We'll bring a close to this AMA. It is recorded, will be put live on YouTube here as soon as possible. If you guys do have any more questions along the way, tag us away, chat in the general chats. Let's get this information going. Let's get this, the conversation pouring, because that's what we're here for until we get to that next migration point. So again, thank you all for joining us on this community AMA in this beautiful November 16th, 2022, or November 17th for those in Australia and New Zealand and that region over there. Shout shout out to each and every one of you. Thank you, Julian. Thank you for the core team. Thank you, Pred. Thank you to the community. Thank you to all the mods and advisors. You guys are all great. Pred just jumped in here. What up, man? Just a quick shout out to you guys. We're closing this out. But sincerely, thank you guys for joining us, and we'll catch you in the chats and again at AMA very, very soon. So peace out, fam.